final game review of Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops, Tactical Espionage Action. So, this is the first game for the Metal Gear Solid series to take place on the PSP. I would still call it the only one because Peace Walker wasn't a PSP exclusive, but never mind. How did a handheld game fare for the franchise as a whole? Well, to answer that, let's start with the hardware itself. In order to accomplish accurate shooting with a PSP, the player has to hold down a shoulder button, one of the shape buttons, and use the control stick to move around. Regular shooting takes out the shape button, thankfully, and as anyone will tell you who's used one of these things, the control stick that is used for main commands on one of its games is pretty finicky to say the least. The screen's pretty small, but you get used to it, and the platform is not designed for long-term use. I'd say it's like the Zelda thing between consoles and handhelds. In general terms, your console versions are going to be better quality overall, but handhelds have quantity down, and they are still good games to play. Mechanics-wise, Portable Ops did almost the same thing that Snake Eater did, revamping the entire game to include mechanics that were crowbarred in to support a whole new theme presented in the game. In Snake Eater, it was for survival. In Portable Ops, the new mechanics exist to support a theme of mercenary collaboration, joining in a group to take out powerful foes. And just like Snake Eater, the mechanics fall flatter than ever. But the better difference is that while Snake Eaters could have been left out entirely, Portable Ops would have been in the gutter if it hadn't been, and that's because the game itself was designed around the concept. The bosses were a lot harder, so multiple people attacking the same guy was the only way to make the challenge tenable in the first place, since the healing items were complete shit. And then you have this thing where all the people you collect are supposedly having these skill sets you can bring in to have them perform different tasks, like weapon crafting, spying, and even doctoring for the team. The unfortunate problem for this is that if you ever want to have a good group for the ultimate benefit, you have to grind through captures like crazy and grab 50 to 100 people to get best results, and that's ridiculous. And plus, 80% of the captured soldiers are worthless except as fodder. A couple more things I want to highlight from this game. The overarching implications of this game is pretty minor, just establishing Big Boss meeting Campbell and Major Ocelot getting the legacy from the CIA. Other than that, it's a self-contained story that doesn't do much beyond just to add to Big Boss's resume as a badass leader rather than soldier, because Big Boss in this game is so inept at anything of going it alone, and that's a terrible imbalance compared to other games he's been in. And a final nitpick is that this game carried over the stamina bar from MGS3, and the only thing that adds is that this game can kill you if you are too hungry, so you need to find health kits and rations in order to survive in this game. And that's grade A bullshit. Okay, let's finish this game up and see what this scoreboard ultimately thinks of it. Gameplay. Metal Gear Solid was just not meant to be on a PSP. The shooting mechanics are fiddly, unintuitive, and itself can lead to major problems since MGS fights mean that you have to be on the ball with pinpoint shooting, and you can't pinpoint anything with such a slippery control stick which orients movement. The shooting mechanic makes the entire game just that much more difficult since the designers didn't scale down anything to make up for it and put it at a console difficulty standard. The addition of group teamwork would have worked wonders for the game if any of them had useful skills, but the abilities everyone has is completely all over the place. That's only ending up in confusing the player when they decide on which spot to stick a newcomer when we have 7 teams available for assistance. The stamina bar just acts as another health bar, and the capture mechanics do ultimately work, and I'm glad that they were easy to get around. All you really need to do is drag sleeping soldiers back to your truck and BAM! You've got a new crewmate to use. For what the PSP did to Metal Gear Solid, I'll give it a 6 1/3 Triforce score. Story. This game probably has one of the better one-act stories in the franchise with a well-rounded main character and a solid plot to boot. The locations, which are extremely important to MGS games, are multiple closed-off arenas filled with buildings and enemies, and in this game it does work to its advantage, making it feel a lot more sneaky and more like an independent cause within an enemy territory. Eliza, Null, Cunningham, and Jean all had great stories that fully rounded out their fights that made that the best part of each of their fights. I'd honestly rate it close to MGS3 because while Portable Ops doesn't have overarching importance, they both do similar plots that came out really well. 9 1/3 Triforces for the PSP entries plot. Fun. Was the game fun? Not as much as any of the other entries in the franchise. Was it worth playing? Definitely. Like I said, the story was the best part, and the game wasn't as ball-busting as it sounded the whole way through. Honestly, with the way this game designed its objectives, you could alert everyone you wanted to, and still complete the mission because all you need to do is just get to the objective marker, and the cutscene starts no matter if you're on alert or not. I just really wish they would have scaled up Big Boss to be able to handle the tough stuff, and this guy beat Groznyj Grad all by himself, so that's a bit ridiculous to not be able to do. The added mechanics fell flat on their face, and I don't know why the designers decided that it'd have to take 3 medical kits to get any decent health regains going, and that sucked entirely. Portable Ops was fun at the sound of 7 Triforces. Portable Ops is the worst entry in the series of the 4 that I have currently played, and that comes entirely from the reason that it's on the PSP in the first place. The small screen can't hold the intensity that comes from a Metal Gear Solid game, and at some parts I was just thinking, let's be done already. This is terrible. The story was the only redeeming feature in this game because it was told really well, and I love going through it because of that, and the mechanics are just grating on my mind on how some of this stuff came from the Kojima team. Balancing gameplay and story together, Portable Ops comes out with a final score of 22 1/3 out of 30, and I wouldn't play it again. Combat is just a colossal chore, and the story isn't worth dealing with the unintuitive platform again. Now that Portable Ops is finished, the next game in the franchise will be Metal Gear Solid 4: Guns of the Patriots, the highly hyped PlayStation 3 game that finalized the story of Solid Snake in a cinematic manner. So we'll get to see how that game does in the future. But in the present, it's time to give you a victory for gamers and a great thank you for watching this 7-part series.